Okay, welcome everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 9:01 a.m. and I can confirm we do have quorum. Everybody's here today. Isn't that great? Councillor Morrison, would you mind reading the land acknowledgement statement, please?
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe under the terms of the Robinson-Huron Treaty Number 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity, honor sacred places, and take actions toward real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walking the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations.
Thank you very much. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none, then I'm moving right along to our main item, which I have to start with by suspending the rules. So I have a motion moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour. Be it resolved that the rules of procedure related to speaking limits be suspended for the duration of the meeting. All those in favor? And that carries. Okay, and before I turn it over to staff, I just have a couple of comments to make because of the different process this year. So, and forgive me if I'm reading some of it, but I just need to get it right because of the new powers that apparently I have. And I was asked this morning if I have new shoes because it's my budget. So I don't. I'm wearing old shoes, very old shoes. It's a bit of a reverse strategy. So as everybody knows, in 24 last year, we approved the multi-year budget for 26, for 25 and 26. And so one might ask, why are we back at it? Because we're required to, under the Municipal Act, to bring back the budget that we approved last year and to re-adopt it, and also to provide an opportunity. So because of the strong mayor powers, it does change the procedures a little bit, and that's why I'm walking through a little bit of this. One thing I really, when I had my pre-briefings, I wanted the public to know, but more importantly, just working with council, this is not a new budget. Just because it's called the mayor's budget, this is not a new budget. This is the consolidated budget adopted by us in 2024. And at the time, we looked at an estimated tax increase of 4.87%, and that's what we have before us today. Nothing has changed with the exception of all of the amendments that were in our agenda package. And those amendments were approved by us. They were in your changes, and they were added to respond to needs around capital, and they do not affect the levy in 2026. So I thought it was really important to emphasize that point. This is what we approved last year with the in-year amendments that we, council, approved during the year. But I also thought it was important to note that should council choose to adopt any amendments today, as per my mayoral decision I signed on September 24th, I do not plan to veto any of them. I respect the decisions made by this table. And so whatever we end up with today, I do not plan to veto any of them, as I said. So that means that we would finish at the end of the meeting today is where we would finish. Now, having said that, at the end of the agenda, there's a motion that, and because I said I would not veto any of the amendments, at this motion, if approved by council, would reduce council's 30-day amendment period. So if you choose to adopt that motion to reduce the 30-day period, then that's the budget that we will adopt, and I can sign papers at the end of this meeting, and it's done. So just want to put it out there that that's how it would end up. And it's my hope that because we put so much time into this budget last year, that we're still pretty happy with it. That's just my hope. Having said that, I'm going to turn it over to staff and we'll walk through what we already have approved. Thank you.
So thank you, everyone. We're really excited to be here with you today to review the Town of Huntsville's 2026 mayoral's consolidated budget presentation. Oh, sorry. I went too far here. The agenda today will include an overview of the 2026 budget and process, a few updates to the capital projects, review council approved changes, and time for discussion and questions.
Thanks, Julia. So we're going to get started with the budget overview. Oh, sorry. So back in 2024, Council passed the Town of Huntsville's first multi-year budget for 2025 and 2026. It was really exciting. So staff and council worked really hard to bring forward a collaborative budget, and we had some really great feedback on the process. The plan was always to bring back and review the 2026 budget in 2025 and discuss if any changes might be needed. We've recently had a legislation change, which introduced strong mayor powers to Huntsville. So the plan has been slightly adapted to achieve our plan review of the 2026 budget. This slide includes a mayoral decision that was signed in September to direct the CAO and Director of Finance Treasurer to prepare an update to the proposed 2026 operating capital budgets and keep the estimated net tax increase over prior year the same as what was originally passed back in November 2024.
The 26 budget being presented includes a levy that is unchanged from what was approved in 2024 budget process, and this can be found on the town's website. It continues Huntsville's commitment to fiscal responsibility, strategic investment, and municipal infrastructure, and provides support for community priorities. This is the second year of the town's first multi-year budget, and which provides stability and predictability for taxpayers and aligns with the Town of Huntsville's strategic plan. So as mentioned in the previous slide, and as mentioned by our mayor, the 26 budget being presented includes a net levy that is unchanged from what was originally approved during the last budget process. Just to recap on our previously approved budget, the total consolidated budget for 26 is just over 25.3 million. The estimated tax rate is 4.87 based on our most recent growth projections from MPAC, which is consistent with the original assessment forecasted in the 25-26 budget process. The net levy is 1.67 increase over the prior year, which again is unchanged from what was originally approved. And the tax impact on an average property will be around $73 for the town portion of taxes, which is proposed to go from $1,489 in 2025 to $1,562 in 2026. Just to note, the expected tax rate for Huntsville in 26 is still less than the 2025 tax rate for both Gravenhurst and Bracebridge, our neighboring towns in Muskoka. So this slide shows a breakdown of where the town's portion of the 2026 tax dollars are proposed to be spent. And again, the town's portion is 1,562, and out of that amount, 777 will be allocated to supporting the road network in the town of Huntsville, which includes anything from snow plowing, replacement of road signs, repairing potholes, line painting, or street sweeping. This also includes the replacement and rehabilitation of over 400 kilometers of roads and 16 bridges and structural culverts that the town owns and maintains. 285 supports community services, keeping Huntsville's community spaces active and welcoming. They support the Canada Summit Centre, including the pool and arenas, the Algonquin Theatre, our community halls, and Muskoka Heritage Place. These facilities make it possible to offer swimming, skating, live performances, special programs like March break activities, and other services that bring people together and make Huntsville a great place to live and play.
$113 is allocated to governance and administration. This includes things like making sure council meetings are live streamed, budgets are ready to review, keeping our residents informed of important information through media releases and Facebook posts, as well as all the information technology infrastructure needed to keep our town running smoothly. 135 will be dedicated to improving our parks and cemeteries. This funding ensures vibrant open spaces for residents and visitors to enjoy, supports outdoor sports and recreation areas for active lifestyles, and allows the town to replace aging playgrounds and maintain parks throughout the community.
$91 will support fire and emergency services, making sure help is there when you need it the most. These funds also go towards fire prevention programs, safety education, and community training, helping everyone stay informed and prepared. $82 will support our library and all the amazing opportunities it offers. It's a place for learning and exploration where residents and visitors can discover new ideas or try out something borrowed from the Library of Things. You can follow Barry Read a Lot on social media for updates and enjoy programming for all ages. Early literacy activities like baby and toddler story time, STEAM and STEM, learning for youth, and engaging adults in sessions on topics such as AI, wills, powers of attorney, and mental health and well-being. These are just a few examples of how the library continues to inspire and connect our community.
$31 supports planning and development services that guide residents through the planning process and promote Huntsville's environmental, social, and economic growth. Planning manages land use and ensures the implementation of the official plan and the community planning permit bylaw. The building department complements this work by reviewing building permit applications, conducting inspections, and enforcing building codes, helping ensure safe, quality construction and development across the community. 27 is for bylaw. The bylaw department works to help keep Huntsville safe and welcoming by supporting public safety and helping residents enjoy their properties peacefully. It also manages short-term rental regulations and looks after parking rules to keep our roads clear and accessible for everyone.
$12 is allocated towards Huntsville's transit system, which provides accessible, affordable transportation for residents and visitors. With scheduled routes and on-demand services, the bus helps people get around town safely and conveniently, offering features like wheelchair access, priority seating, and friendly services for all ages. And lastly, $9 is allocated towards economic development, which includes things like supporting workforce development, development of physician incentive programs, and community grants and supports. In addition to supporting local businesses, economic development also works on projects that strengthen the economy, encourage innovation, and promote Huntsville as a great place to live, work, and visit.
So we want to take a moment to talk about why our multi-year budget process is such a win for Huntsville. By planning ahead, we're able to focus on the big picture and make sure our funding lines up with our long-term goals. This approach helps us move forward on important projects, keep things clear for everyone, and save time when council meets so we can spend more energy on what really matters. Plus, having a multi-year budget makes things run smoother for staff and council. It means less time is spent rehashing the same issues every year and more time working together to get things done. It's all about making sure Huntsville stays on track and ready for whatever comes next.
As noted during the 25-26 budget process when it was introduced, changes to the budget do not mean failure. This process is similar to the town's financial control policy, where adjustments during the year are reported and, if needed, are approved and adopted by council. With a multi-year budget, council still reviews and each upcoming year's budget. Adjustments may occur due to new legislation, changes to council direction, or economic and political conditions. These updates don't mean that the multi-year budget is unsuccessful. They show the flexibility to adapt, grow, and explore new opportunities. This approach ensures Huntsville remains resilient and ready to meet the needs of our community.
So we wanted to quickly touch on the Municipal Act. Section 291 of the Municipal Act says that municipalities may prepare and adopt a multi-year budget covering a period of up to 5 years. And each year, the budget needs to be reviewed and readopted.
So this slide is just a quick reminder for council. Normally these items where we've had risk will be included in the budget guidelines report, but since this is the second year of our multi-year budget and we're keeping the levy increase the same as originally approved, this report was not provided to council. So when preparing the budget, staff carefully considered all of the risks and costs needed to deliver services in 26 rates. We're sharing these points to help everybody stay aware of where we might be vulnerable to and highlight the steps we're taking to mitigate or reduce these risks. So interest rate revenue is always a bit unpredictable since it depends on market conditions. In some years, higher interest rates have allowed us to add more to our working funds reserve at the end of the year. However, with rates now trending lower, we're expecting less revenue from interest going forward. We'll keep monitoring these changes and adjust as needed to make sure our financial position stays strong. Supplementary taxes are the in-year tax revenue when new growth occurs in year. So supplementary tax billing may not always meet targets. We've managed this through quarterly reviews with MPACT. And while they're optimistic about strong growth for Huntsville, recent discussions suggest actual results may fall slightly short from earlier forecasts. To help mitigate this, the town continues to encourage development, stimulate economic growth, and position Huntsville as an attractive place to live and relocate. These efforts support strong long-term stability and growth for our community. So changes were announced in 2025 for the Shared Fire Service Admin Agreement, which has been a long-standing agreement with Lake of Bays, which is going to end at the beginning of 2027 or the end of 26. So it is anticipated this will create funding gaps in future years. Staff are looking at offsetting by deferring the newly created fire department position that was created in the 2025-26 budget and explore new revenue streams or enhance existing ones. The Ontario Municipal Partners Fund is essentially the transfer payment from the province to the town. And in 2026, we've recently received our final allocation. We'll receive $2,215,000 through the OMPF funding, an increase of $173,000 compared to 2025. The 26 budget included the estimated OMPF allocation with any additional funds received being transferred to the working funds reserve. And now that 26 is confirmed, the same proactive approach would apply. Any excess beyond the original budget be transferred to go into reserves. The strategy helps us prepare for the 2027 budget, where we anticipate changes such as the increase in transit costs, adjustments to fire administration revenue, reduced supplementary tax revenue, and any new debentures coming forward for new facilities. And second last, like many municipalities, just with inflationary costs, Huntsville faces challenges and unpredictable costs for contracts and services. Prices for materials and labor have fluctuated since COVID-19, as you all know, making accurate planning more difficult. Changes to trade rules and limited supplier options also drive up the costs, reducing flexibility. We've identified this as a potential risk, but it could also work in our favor if market conditions improved. The town continues to monitor these trends and closely manage costs effectively and take advantage of opportunities when they rise. One other note that has recently come to our attention is the Lakeland dividend. We have been provided notice that the Lakeland dividend may temporarily be suspended or reduced. However, we have not yet received formal direction on this from the board. So there is a risk that the first quarter dividend may not be received in 26, which equates to about $106,000. This is primarily due to the snow and ice storms that have occurred in recent past.
Now we'll look at some capital updates, which will include changes to projects and timing. However, these will not impact the levy as these are either funded from reserves or grants or other funding sources.
So back in 2024, there was a $808,000 increase to the capital levy identified in the 2026 budget that was previously approved and presented and approved. The capital levy increase is built into the 4.87% tax rate increase, and this represents about 3.35% of the total tax rate increase. Of this increase, 66 relates to the town's road network, including roads, bridges, and sidewalks, or $535,000 of the 808 total capital increase. So the capital levy supports long-term infrastructure and asset management plans for sustainable community infrastructure and has been identified as a priority to our residents. We have an infrastructure renewal focus. Funds will be used primarily for renewal and rehabilitation of and maintenance of roads, municipal buildings, and public service facilities. From our asset management plan that was passed earlier this year, the amount of capital levy funding is part of the town's plan to get to a sustainable level of funding for existing capital with approximately 10 years remaining. No additional contributions for capital asset replacements have been included in the 2026 budget or in planned annual increases. Starting in 2027, any newly approved capital assets that expands our inventory will trigger an increase in funding through the capital levy. Approved motions will specifically specify the additional capital levy contribution to be included in the following year's reserve contributions.
We wanted to include this graphic as a recap just to show the relationship between the capital levy or contributions and capital projects and expenses. Huntsville, like many communities, face an infrastructure gap, meaning we don't have enough funding to keep all of our roads, bridges, and facilities in perfect shape. Right now, we're only able to cover about half of what's needed each year. So the town is working on a long-term plan to close this gap and make sure our infrastructure stays safe and reliable for everyone. Simply put, for every dollar we need to spend, we only have about 50 cents available. The following slides will list amendments to the 2026 capital projects and expenses, which will not impact the levy or previously approved tax rate increase of 4.87% because these projects are funded from reserves, grants, or other funding sources. These amendments are being brought forward because since 2024, when the 2026 budget was originally approved by council, conditions of assets have changed from what was anticipated, which results in projects moving forward or advancing. Price refinements based on current market conditions have occurred, which result in amounts increasing or decreasing. While it's important not to unnecessarily draw from reserves, contributions are made to the reserves annually out of the capital levy in order to plan or save for the replacement of existing capital. Any grants received by the town, either ongoing or one-time, will help offset the capital project expenses and reduce the amount of infrastructure deficit the town faces. The full list of previously approved capital projects, including the changes to the remaining capital forecast, can be found as an attachment in today's meeting agenda.
So starting with roads, there are two capital roads replacement projects that are district-led projects that have been added to be completed in 26. The first one is Meadow Park Drive Road reconstruction. This is phase 2, a continuation of phase 1 of Meadow Park Drive project that the town completed in 2024. The project is being included at $500,000, the town's portion of the project, and will be funded from Roads Capital Reserve and offset by any grants that are received from the district. The location is at Meadow Park and Scott Street to Rogers Cove Drive and Highway 60. The work is forecasted to last until mid-June 2026. This was not originally included in the 26 budget, but is being moved forward at the district level, and we will try to work in conjunction with them to help improve efficiencies where possible. Key improvements also include improvement of local infrastructure to connect the new Mountain View sewage water pumping station to the upgraded Golden Pheasant wastewater treatment plant. This project will also invest in infrastructure that supports growth and our affordable housing priorities while protecting the environment. The second project that staff are proposing to move forward is the replacement, or is the Thunder Bridge sidewalk on West Road. This is another district-led project, and work will include the sidewalk replacement. At the same time, district is completing road work along the same stretch of road. This project is being included at $500,000. The town's portion of the project will be funded from Roads Capital. Next, we'll look at transit. So there is a resolution passed by council in July 2025 to approve the purchase of 2 new buses to enhance transit services. Starting July 26, the Huntsville Transit will offer longer services and improve routes to better meet the needs of our growing community. One of the biggest changes is the introduction of a new transit hub at Walmart, which will act as a central transfer point to help reduce wait times and improve overall connectivity. This hub also supports a new east-west route split designed to make travel across town faster and more efficient. And thanks to a $269,000 in funding from federal and provincial grants, the expansion of the Huntsville Transit will connect more residents to work, school, and essential services.
Now we will move on to cemetery. This project is the Hutchison Chapel exterior brickwork repairs. So this is a replacement project that was identified. It's not a new asset. This additional project is to be added to the 2026 capital plan to complete repairs at the Hutchison Chapel. Due to weather, the existing brickwork is starting to deteriorate and impact the existing structure. Again, this was not included in the capital replacement in 2025 to 2029, but it is an existing asset that needs repairs, so it has been proposed to be included in the 2026 capital project listing at $11,500 and will be funded from the Cemetery Capital Reserve.
The next two slides highlight parks projects with price adjustments, both increases and decreases. So staff have thoroughly reviewed all project estimates to ensure accuracy. These changes reflect post-COVID market fluctuations where materials and contract pricing experience significant volatility. So the first two projects are price decreases based on the more current quotes and work required. So the first is Goodwin Park dock and crib project, proposed to include resurfacing of the dock and putting in a new crib. Previously, the project was approved at $15,000, but the estimated project cost is being updated to $10,000. The Riverview Estates dock and crib project is proposed to include resurfacing the docks and putting in a new crib as well. Previously, the project was approved at $14,000, but the estimated project cost is being updated to $10,000.
These next two projects are parks projects that have price increases based on more current quotes and work required. The Glenwood Park playground equipment and safety surface replacement is a project with a price increase of $1,000, bringing the total proposed cost of the project to $9,000 from previously approved $8,000. Most of the costs associated with this project is for the safety surface replacement, and there'll also be a new some swing seat replacements. The safety surface is an engineered wood fiber that deteriorates over time and needs to be topped up. For example, when you come down the slide, you're supposed to have so many inches of material to land in. The next project on this list is the Avery Beach additional parking spaces. This project was a new project that was approved in the 2026 budget process back in 2024. It includes the cost to extend and add new parking spaces at Avery Beach, not replacement of existing parking area. Due to the location of the parking lot to the CN property, there are requirements that the town installs a chain link fence around the parking area, complete a stormwater management study, and runoff design work. These requirements were only brought to staff's attention in the spring of 2025 after the project was approved to be included. The project was originally approved to be included in the 2026 budget at $74,500, funded from deferred parkland reserve, but is now being proposed to increase by $90,500 for a total project cost of $165,000. The additional $90,500 is proposed to be funded from the Parks Capital Reserve.
These next two parks projects have price increase from previously approved capital project amounts, although minor, staff wanted to reflect these changes. So the first is the replacement of turf equipment, a brush cutter. This one is a price increase from the previously approved amount and is based on revised quotes. So that's an increase of $1,000. The next is another park project at Selkirk Park, the safety surface replacement. Again, engineered wood fiber, which deteriorates over time, needs to be topped up. Similar to Goodwin Park, where you go down the slide, you need to have so much material when you need to safely land in it. And this project will top up the material to an appropriate level. This project was originally approved at $5,500, but is being revised to a total cost of $6,000.
Back in 2024, a part of the budget process included user groups making requests for the 2025-2026 budget. There was a batting cage project brought forward by one of the town's user groups, the Hornets, that was approved and scheduled for 2026. There have been some changes to the project, which includes external fencing or netting that can stay up all year, no need to remove for the winter. The interior will have a flexible netting that will possibly need to be taken in. Seasonally, staff have been working closely with the user group, and the batting cage will be a permanent structure with concrete footings and a roof. What was originally requested was a temporary structure, and the revised costs and plans will be more suitable for commercial use and last longer and be safer for users. So just a brief history on this project. Originally, the user group brought it forward at $6,500 with a contribution from the user group for $6,500. It was approved for consideration in the 2026 budget process through the user group process at $14,500 with the $6,500 user group contribution. The change was primarily for costs for fencing surrounding the batting cages. Approved in the 2025-2026 budget to complete in 2026. The project was approved at $33,500 with a $6,500 user group contribution. And now the ask is that the project increases to a total of $45,000. We have reached out to the Hornets, and in addition to the $6,500 that the organization originally contributed, they're going to be contributing an additional amount. Overall, the cost is $45,000 with $10,000 contributed from the user group, so the town cost will be $35,000.
We will now move over to community services and Muskoka Heritage Place. So the locomotive project was approved by council in 2025 to proceed at a total project cost of $160,000, which was originally split between 2 years. Sorry, that's too far away. Subsequently, in 25, council approved motion 12825 to increase the project price and funding for 2-year project cost of $220,000. The RFP has been issued and awarded in August 25. Staff have confirmation from the vendor that this project is scheduled for 26 and 27. So any carry forwards will be carried forward to previous year or forward to the new years. This project is being funded from the Hartley Donation Reserve as well as any donations received from the Huntsville Lake of Bays Railway Society. There are additional funds expected from the Hartley estate. However, these funds have not yet been confirmed. Anything additional received from the Hartley estate or the Huntsville Lake of Bays Rail Society will reduce the funding required to come from the Muskoka Heritage Place Reserve.
The next project is the Purser Cabin railing, platform, and footing replacement. This capital project at Purser's Cabin, the railing on the platform needs to be replaced based on its condition, and the platform is made out of wood and the pillars are concrete. These features need work completed due to lots of enjoyment by the public. The platform allows access for the public to enter Purser's Cabin off of the main platform from the train. Purser's Cabin has recently had the windows replaced and the roof, and the Purser's Cabin is a part of the museum because it contains local artifacts and items specific to this area's history. Santa also uses this train and platform for the Portage Flyer Christmas event. The project is currently on the 2025 capital project list, but will now likely be complete in 2026. In 2025, staff have been working to complete a recommended geotechnical assessment, but it's weather dependent. Once the geotechnical assessment is complete, we will have a better confirmation of the project timing. There's concrete pillars on the shoreline, and they need assessment to verify the scope of the work to ensure we're able to preserve the structure for years to come.
For recreation and leisure, there are 2 projects that require some minor changes. The AEDs, staff worked diligently to ensure our AED equipment is replaced as needed. There were significant bulk replacements done in previous years. This is one of the AEDs that was not replaced at that time because of the age. The unit still had some lifespan left. So staff excluded this one from the bulk replacement. The new units are Wi-Fi enabled, which allows the device condition to be monitored. The pads and batteries last longer in the newer models as well, which reduces maintenance. Just to note, these AEDs are located throughout town facilities and can provide emergency life-saving support when emergency response arrives. The other capital project on the slide is the program equipment projector, which was originally approved to be included in the 26 budget for replacement, but is still in good working condition. So staff have deferred this project from 26 to 27. This projector is located at the Canada Summit Center and is used for internal training purposes and programming offered by the community like babysitting courses, home alone, first aid, and national life-saving training. These are just some examples of how the public training programs some of the public training programs that are offered to the community.
Now we will move on to some information technology capital projects. The first is the Council Chamber Audiovisual Replacement Project, which is currently included in the 2025 capital project listing. However, the display device in the Council Chamber is still in good working order, so staff are recommending deferring this replacement to 2026. The total project cost is $1,000. The next item on this slide is the storage device replacement. It's another capital replacement project that staff are carrying forward from 25 to 26. The total project cost is $5,000. This device supports town data backup processes. Staff will keep an eye on all the data storage devices to make sure they're working properly and will only replace them when absolutely necessary. This helps keep things running smoothly without unnecessary costs.
The surveillance system project. Next is a surveillance system project. Staff have been working on completing this 2025 project, but will not complete in its entirety in this year. The balance of the project that won't be completed will need to be carried forward to 2026. This project includes installation of surveillance systems throughout the town, including Rivermill Park, the Town Hall, Summit Center, and Muskoka Heritage Place. The next project is the network replacement capital project. This project is currently on the 25 capital listing, and staff have been actively completing component replacements in 25, but the full extent of the work will not be done until 2026. Network replacements occur through town facilities and support specialty equipment, including radios.
These two previously approved capital replacement projects are price adjustments. End-use computer replacement are existing capital assets like computers and tablets that need to be replaced. Staff have updated their estimated replacements based on the devices that are in service. The estimate of the replacements that will be required in 2026 is proposed to be reduced by $23,000 from what was previously approved, which is funded from the Information Technology Capital Replacement Reserve, for a total revised replacement cost of $33,000. The next project is the cell phone replacement, which is increasing by $9,000 from the previously approved amount. And this replacement is also being proposed to be funded from the Information Technology Capital Replacement Reserve for a total revised replacement cost of $29,000 from the previously approved amount of $20,000. Devices are only replaced as needed if they stop working or are at end of life due to security updates or support.
These next two capital replacement projects have been added to 2026. The first is the Council Chambers Hearing Assist Equipment, which is a replacement of existing equipment. We're looking to replace in 26 because the existing equipment is the old analog system that has a headset that goes over top of someone's head. The new system will be a Bluetooth enabled and would be able to wirelessly connect to anyone who requires a hearing assist that is attending a meeting. The next project is battery backup replacements. So these are UPS devices, which is uninterruptible power supplies, commonly known as battery backups. They keep critical systems running during power outages. Anywhere we have network capabilities, we have one of these devices to support business operations and essential services. If the power goes out, the UPS unit provides temporary power until generators start up. Not every location has a generator, so these backups are vital to prevent service interruptions. The replacement project is being added at a total cost of $21,400 and is being funded from the IT Capital Replacement Reserve.
This next replacement project being added to the 2026 capital project list is for the fire communications at Florence Street, a repeater replacement. The Florence Street Tower has two repeaters on it, one for fire use and one for public works use. The replacement that is being proposed is the fire use repeater. It is at the end of its life, and the goal is to replace it before it starts to fail. It's very good timing to replace it also with the tower work budgeted in 2025. The tower, part of the Muskoka Community Land Trust project, as previously approved by council, is slated to be done in 2025. However, any carry forward amounts will be reported to committee in the year-end report, and carry forward amounts identified in Q1. The repeater is the main tool that allows the communication to occur via radio, allowing fire department to communicate across town with each other. The next project on this slide is the antenna and bridging radio replacements. It's another capital replacement project for an existing item that is being added to the 2026 capital project list. This project is to replace aging equipment that provides the network link between town facilities. Replacing this equipment at the end of its useful life prevents service disruptions. The project is being added at a total cost of $11,500 and will be funded from the Information Technology Capital Replacement Reserve.
So next, we just want to go over what changes will occur to reporting to council going forward with the multi-year and this new budget. So currently in the Q1 forecast is not a requirement under our financial controls policy. However, starting in 2026, we will be bringing a Q1 report forward, which is a new introduction, in addition to the regular variance reports of the Q2, Q3, and the year-end report. So this will be presented in early 2026. It's important to note that any of the council-approved changes that have occurred at this time will not have an impact on the levy. And just to note, council changes are specific motions in this with specific spending that impacts a 2026 or future budget. We will now look at these changes, including the funding source. These are similar to in-year budget variances that are approved by council and included as variances in the forecast reports over the year. The first is a transit expansion approved with Resolution 12425. This operating impact is for $148,500 with additional transit costs to be funded from the Working Funds Reserve in 26, which will result in no levy change in 26. However, this will impact the 2027 budget, where an additional increase of $351,000 will be included. The capital impact, as we've already looked at today, will be the purchase of 2 new buses in 26 and will be funded from a mix of federal and provincial grants and reserve funds. Next, we have Healthcare Human Resource Recruiter Program, HRR, approved with Resolution 13425. The operating impact for this is $25,000 in each 2026, 2027, 28, and will be funded from the Municipal Accommodation Tax Reserve, resulting in no levy change in 2026.
These next 2 council-approved changes occurred in 2025 and impact 2026. They were approved with GC 68-25. The tax incentive grant policy is a new initiative, so staff are anticipating that rebates of up to $45,000 could occur in 2026, which would be funded from the Municipal Accommodation Tax Reserve. The affordable housing policy rebate was approved also with Resolution GC 68-25. These rebates are forecasted at $128,000 in 2026, and they're to be funded from the Municipal Accommodation Tax Reserve and Building Stabilization Reserve. They'll have no levy impact on 2026. As these programs evolve and uptake increases, staff will report any overages or forecast updates through the quarterly forecast budget reports.
So these changes shown here are legislative and they are positive ones. Our Ontario Community Infrastructure Funding, or OCIF, was confirmed at an increase of $62,500 from what was included previously in the 26 budget. This increased funding will offset existing road projects, reducing the amount of funds needed to be taken from the town's reserves. The total OCIF funding is now expected to be in total $683,548. The Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund has been confirmed again with a total increase of $173, and as previously noted, any amounts over budget will be transferred to Working Funds Reserve. So thank you all for your attention and engagement as we review the 2026 draft mayoral budget. As noted in the presentation and in the motion that is in your agenda, the budget being presented is the same net levy as originally presented through the 2025-26 budget process and includes adjustments to capital projects only. It's important to note that there are no other changes to the operating budget. This plan demonstrates commitment to financial responsibility, strategic investment, and support the priorities that matter most to Huntsville. We want to highlight also how valuable our multi-year budget process has been. It's given us stability, helped us plan in the long term, made sure we're investing the things that matter the most to Huntsville. Even when things change, this approach lets us adapt and keep us moving forward. We're proud of the collaborative effort that brought us here and look forward to continued progress and innovation in the year ahead. Now I'll turn things over to Mayor Alcock to talk about our next steps and open the floor for discussion.
Thank you both for a really wonderful summary of where we were at and where we're going, which is so important as a reminder. Before I open it up to the floor, which we now can have the open debate about everything that you've heard, just a quick comment from my perspective. Being a bit of a geek, I went through a bunch of the reports and the budget in detail last night, and I don't want to downplay that a 4.87% increase is, it still means a lot to our community. It's less than 5. That was our goal last year, and it is less than 5, but it's still 4.87%. And I know that there are a number of people in the community that are concerned. I have to say, though, when I look at all we achieved and what we intend to do in 2026, it is quite remarkable. And I know I hear from our community about the importance of not just our roads, and as you pointed out rightly, the lion's share of our capital investment goes to roads and all of the ancillary things along with our roads. But it also, I love the chart where you break down $777, goes towards this and to the roads, but the next one in line, $285 to our community services. And I don't know about you, but I hear from people in the community as to how important our rinks and our pool and all of our community services are. And I see the changes. We did our change rooms last year, or for the pool. And I think that's, it was a long time coming, but we did it. And all of the projects you listed, they're equally important. So I look at, areas which don't receive the lion's share, like planning and development, and on their list was to do a heightened density study and to do a housing action plan. Check and check. And then the next one is a secondary plan, and so it goes. All of that comes from our reserves, not the heightened density, but all of the projects that I referred to really highlight the one big ticket item, which is our increase to our capital reserves year over year. And I know that was a big discussion item last year as to how much that increase should be. We've heard we want to close that gap right now. Are we at 50% of that gap? That's, we want to do better. From my perspective, the increase to our capital reserves, it was a decision we made last year. I think when you look at the projects we intend to do in 2026, such as the purchase of 2 new buses, from my perspective, it allows us to do those big, bold moves. And so again, it was really actually, it was really encouraging to go through what we wanted to do last year and what we were able to do last year, because of our contribution to reserves. So I just, again, and I look forward to what we will be able to do in 2026, the decisions we've made around the investment into our community. So that's where I wanted to start. Thank you for the review. And now I will turn it over to Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock, and thank you both for your thorough presentation, very informative. I love the fact that we're having some enhanced services and we're moving towards a more sustainable position in our reserves. So we all agreed and we're headed in the right direction, so I really appreciate that. I do have a few questions, direct questions related to the presentation. I'll start at the top. Steam train from the reserve. Are we going to remove that steam train from service and go strictly with a diesel locomotive moving forward, or are we going to have a rebuild? Does anybody know the answer to that question? I don't know.
Director Babineau, I think.
Through you, Mayor. It's going to be like for like, so we are having it rebuilt. We have to rebuild it and bring it back. It's actually going off site to be rebuilt, and then and this is the steam train, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because there's a diesel unit being
we have
worked
two
on as well.
trains, right? One is diesel and one is steam.
Okay, so we're carrying forward with both types of units.
Yes.
Okay, good. Question one, can I continue on? Thanks. Purser's cabin structural footings. I didn't get, I don't think, as much information as I wanted there. We have to have them assessed for their structural integrity, or it wasn't very clear to me.
Through you again, Madam Mayor. Yes, so we have, we started the project. We've replaced the roof, the windows. We've done a couple of things over the last few years. What we have found out is that that it needs to be assessed for the building itself before we make any of the changes for the ramp going up to it. And it doesn't make sense to fix the ramp before we do so it's a chicken and egg kind of a thing. So we're having the assessment done first. It will elongate the project, but we'll have it all done at the end of it. 26 and 27, I believe.
Thanks for that. The doozy question. All the local municipalities, townships received costs to offset expenses due related to the ice storm. It's a bit of a stretch, but if we don't receive Lakeland dividends as a direct result of the ice storm, is there any way that can be included in recoup of loss due to the ice storm?
I think I'm going to turn it over to CAO Corey. I think. Yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I will have to look into that. At first blush, I don't believe that would be an eligible expense, but we can follow up on that.
I guess my point would be it's worth looking into. I think it's a pretty far stretch, but it is a direct result of the ice storm that we're incurring this loss in revenue. So it's worth investigating, I guess, is what I'm trying to suggest.
We can certainly look into it, Your Worship. I do actually think the window to apply for the funding has closed, but we can also check that as well. Thank you.
Suffice to say, staff are working together, actually with other municipalities, to look at several avenues to deal with that particular situation. So I think to answer, there's more to come on that.
That's it for me. Great job. Appreciate it. Look forward to everyone else's questions.
Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Your Worship. I've got 3 pages, so great job. Just clarification on more than anything. I noticed when you mentioned the capital replacement projects for the Thunder Bridge sidewalk, and you mentioned district grant. I don't know if that was just, is it an actual grant, or are they just doing it in conjunction with them?
Good question. I thought that terminology was on. Anyway, Director McKenzie.
Sorry, I thought the mayor was going to answer the question on that one. The district did get a grant for that whole project, so we did, can't confirm the total amount that we got in '24, but because they're still working on it. But we are expecting to get some of our costs recouped from the '24 budget, for that project. And then, so they're trying to include this as part of that project as well, so that we can get some money back. So it's not a district grant, it's a provincial grant, yeah. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I just want clarification so everybody thinks the district's not giving us grants. Parks Reserve, I know we're spending a lot of money into the Parks Reserve coming up. I'm just wondering how healthy is that reserve right now?
Can we defer that one for a minute, and then if you want to go to your next
You
one?
can take 2 minutes.
Do you want to go to your
Do you,
next one?
do
and
you,
we'll
do you
find-
want, do you have another question? Do you want to go to your next question?
This
while-
one, I think you clarified this one already, and the Florence, the towers, Florence Street with the repeaters for the fire department, et cetera, that's going to happen with the tower being moved, or it's going to happen prior to the tower being moved?
I believe it's going to happen with the tower being removed, and I believe it's the standalone equipment that can move back and it can be moved from tower to tower.
Well, I guess what I mean is that we're not going to replace it first and then move the tower and replace it again,
No, I don't
or
believe
move
so.
it with it. It's just all
Yeah.
going to happen at once. Okay,
Yeah.
just clarification. Thanks.
No, it's good clarification. Thank you for that. And you're working on question number 2 for information. Okay, I'm seeing Suzanne sort of whipping through. I will go to Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Alcock, and thank you both for your report. I've got 2 questions. So I guess the first one is, again, to just revisit the Lakeland dividend. So around that dividend possibly not being paid, I just want to make sure or ask the question, will that loss impact this budget that we're looking at, the rate, the levy rate, and how will that gap be bridged? That's my first question.
Excellent question. And I'm going to turn it over to Director Mackenzie
Okay.
as to how we're responding on that one.
So we don't have formal confirmation that's going to happen, but what we're hearing is that it would be just the first payment, not the full amount. That's what we've heard so far. So as we noted, also the OMPF funding is up by 173,000. So excuse me. So in Q2, once we get confirmation, we could bring that forward as a budget deviation and then offset it through working funds.
Thank you for asking that question because that
Yep.
has been.
And my second question is just around the transit system. It's more to do, my question is more around the 2027 budget, but I noticed that there's a 351,000 amount that looks like it'll need to be funded through the operations expenses in 2027. So I guess my question is that going to be, how is that going to be funded? Is it going to affect the levy rate in 2027, or is that a capital expense?
Director Mackenzie?
So it will be that is the operating expense going forward. So that was included in the report back in July that was brought forward. So council did approve to phase it in. So they were bringing in the one part or half of it starting in July 2026, but that amount being funded from reserves, and then the full amount coming in on 27. So when we do the 27 budget, it will impact the levy. However, we can look at ways to offset that, either through reduction in reserve transfers that we've built in, or other savings that we can find. So it was an item that was identified.
I also have a question around that. If we increase our transit service, does our provincial grant also increase to offset, the new costs?
Thank you. So when we did that forecast, that did factor into what we estimated the provincial amounts to be. So that was included in that amount. However, hopefully the province does want to increase their funding envelope for transit, and hopefully will help us allow to get more of that to offset. So hopefully in 27 we can get that down even further.
So I think that is potentially another avenue to bring it down. Okay, thank you. And good. All right. I'm going to switch to this, sorry, I'm switching to this side because I've completely neglected this side. Today, I'm all this side. It's all about this side. So I know I've got my good eye on. So Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, ladies, for the presentation. This is the second time that I was able to listen to it. It's amazing what you hear the second time around, too. But I do want to do, I'm glad that the levy is not increasing, and I'm glad that it's the same budget that we presented last year. The thing that I really do want to call out is to the ability of our staff and the fact that they have allowed us to continue with the contributions, the capital funding contributions that we did, the $808,000. If we hadn't done that, then our OMPF funding would not be where it is. So as much as it's really difficult for us to take that money and put it aside for capital projects, but because we are doing that and being proactive in our capital projects, we can see the benefit. And we have $170,000 that's coming back to us from the OMPF. And they look at things like contributions that we're doing on capital funding. So it's painful to do, but in the end, it does pay off. So thank you both for that. And I know that's you wouldn't say that yourselves, but I think it's a call out to both of you and the work that you've done and all of staff have done. So thank you for that. I don't have any specific questions about the budget. I think it's concise in the way it is. And I think that moving forward, we're going to go ahead with a 4.8% increase. Painful as it is, but it's great things that we're doing for this community.
Director McKenzie.
Just to go back to Councillor Armour's question, so the last we reported at for parks was that the ending balance in 26 was going to be around 400,000 for the Parks Reserve.
The CAO Corey would also like to jump in.
Thank you, Worship. So staff did a bit of investigation on the comment that Councillor Fitzgerald made with respect to the Lakeland dividend and potentially the loss of the installment. And the funding program is actually closed. It was called the Municipal Ice Storm Assistance Program. It's closed. However, there would not have been an eligible expense. It specifically relates to costs that are incurred regarding operating costs for the municipality or capital costs. But thank you for the suggestion, but it would not have qualified, but thank you.
And we also weren't hit as significantly as some of our neighbors.
And, and unfortunately, I figured that was probably going to be the response, and the fact that it's closed. Loss is loss. Maybe we can find another way to recoup those losses if there is in fact a loss.
Yep, good point. Councillor Schumacher.
Not so much a question, I guess, as a comment. We always use 300,000 as our benchmark for a home for 300,000. I don't feel that is a realistic assessment within the town of Huntsville. I mean, if somebody's home is 600,000, obviously they're doubling the cost that we see. But again, I guess going forward with presentations, is that because 300,000 is what MPAC right now because the last assessments haven't been done? Or why is it that we use 300,000? Because I think people would like to see a more realistic view of what they're actually their taxes. I love that slide and where everything goes. I think it's amazing and it's great, but I think the town wants to see a more realistic view of what their actual costs are going to based on their assessment of their home.
Thank you, and that's a great question. We had a lot of discussion about this with our chairs the other day. So the rates that MPAC is using to assess homes in Huntsville and across Ontario is the 2016 rates. So if you take your assessed value and times it by our tax rate, that's your tax bill. You don't take your market value times the tax rate, and that's not your tax bill because that would double what you pay in taxes. So it's hard for us because we realize that the public understands that their home is valued at 600,000, not at 300,000. But if we tell you the tax rate, you can't times it by your market value because you're going to be very scared because it'll be double. So that's part of it. So it's hard because we have two different systems running, but we're trying to use the terminology, the average assessment, because the average assessment in Huntsville is actually 300,000. And just to note too, if you have any questions, we do have MPAC coming at the end of this month to give a presentation. So any questions you may have for MPAC, saved for then, but please note that it is the provincial government that sets when the new assessments come into place. It's not MPAC. But thank you, that's a great question and a really good point to bring up.
Thank you.
And that question is asked at AMO every year
Yeah.
by the municipalities, every year, and Roma, every year.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been sitting here for 2 terms and we've used the same
Same,
number
I know,
for 2
and
terms.
it's a
So
great
that's why I
question.
guess, yeah, I'm
Yep.
kind of bringing it forward. My other one is, so yes, in that slide, $91 for fire services. Now you did speak to the changes in the shared service could impact, but I'm guessing that's more going to the 2027 budget, correct? Yeah, okay. And then lastly, the batting cages. Can anyone use those, or is it just going to be for the Hornets? Like, we're putting money into it, so is it something that the community then, entire community benefits from?
In speaking with the directors, it is to be used by the by the Hornets Association only.
Really? That, I don't remember us having that discussion. It's an interesting one, given there's a bunch of public funding going into that. Can you comment on that, please?
Sorry,
Thank
I'm
you.
just trying to go by memory here, and if I can find it quickly.
Okay.
When we did the report originally for that user request ask, it was included in there that it would likely be only used by that organization, just to limit the liability. And also, you need to have somebody, I believe, like scheduling the time to do it if you're going to leave it open to the public, which
Okay.
we don't have a staff
Okay.
resources to do.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Thank you. Huh. Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Alcock. And I don't want to be negative, but it shocks me that 9 years later, they still haven't changed MPAC's rules. In the real estate world, it always drove us crazy. And I know Councillor Clark would confirm that it was just kind of wild. On the 300,000 thing, we did bring it up as chair and co-chair the other day. And it is tough because I did some digging after that. And indeed, our average assessment is $300,000, believe it or not. I wonder, the only thing that might be suitable is maybe to say per 100,000 of assessment going forward, because then if your house is assessed at 700, you can just multiply by 7. But we can't go to 500,000 or 600,000 because that's not the average assessment in town. So we did bring it up, and staff were able to answer all those questions. I want to point out a few things. I reached out to Julie and Suzanne about the amount that we've increased our capital during this term, and it's significant, and I think it needs to be acknowledged. We don't talk about it enough in the public. I don't think the public knows how much of their tax increase is that. So when you look at this year, for instance, the tax increase of 4.87, 3.35% of that is our increase to our capital levy. So our actual increase, if you take that out, that is something that the public has said they want. They want roads, sidewalks, bridges, and capital investment. The increase aside from that is just 1.52%, which is unbelievable when you think about it. Everyone keeps saying online, can you get it under inflation? Well, that's under inflation. And I think that comes down to not just this council. We're following a direction that was given, what, 2 to 3 councils ago, at the, not just request of staff, but the demanding of staff, that we get that line item back into picture. So we're now spending about $8.5 million on roads, I believe, for instance, and or in the capital levy, not just roads. And the gap is still there. The gap is really up around 19 million. Like, we should be spending 19 million if the gap was closed. So originally I was going to propose an amendment to look at bringing the tax increase down to 3.99% somehow. And then after this dialogue, I don't think I can do that. I was thinking if we could reduce that 808,000 by X, whether it's 140,000, whatever that number is, because I've had a lot of calls this week from the public talking about uncertainty with tariffs and cost of food and cost of rent and cost of everything else. And I've got requested 4 separate times, can you get the tax rate under 4%? So I came here today to try to talk about that, of how we could do it. And I had an amendment already planned. And, but I think we can't stop closing that gap. And I just want the public to know that the 4.87%, the vast majority of that, probably, I mean, quick math is probably 70 some odd % of the tax increase is what everyone has asked us to spend money on. So I also want to acknowledge, along with Councillor Renwick, the staff need to be applauded more than ever for this year's budget. A 2-year budget has been great for all of us for a lot of reasons, certainty, planning, and all those things, but it has handcuffed staff in a lot of ways. So every year, every month, staff is looking at how can we make the town a better place? How can we make our department work better and run better? And truly, there are areas where they would like to spend more money. But this year, I know our CAO and the senior leadership team has tasked them with, well, if you need this, then you're going to have to find that money within your own budget. And that's what our staff has done this year. So I want that made clear to the public that our staff has stepped up to make sure that we didn't increase the levy any more than we already committed to. So I think this is a document and a presentation you guys should be proud of, your entire team. And it's well presented, gave me a lot more information than I had, and I'm just really happy with what you guys have done. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Councillor Morrison. I echo absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. So thank you for saying that. Councillor Stone.
Thanks. I'm going to ask a question for the public's benefit because I've been asked the question. So our reserves, when things come to us and they say, oh, it's coming out of reserves, that's okay. Well, how do those reserves get replenished? Is it not the tax levy?
Director Mackenzie, would you like to respond?
Sure. So, just going back to the presentation, just to remind the public, we had the slide with the piggy bank. So we do have the capital contributions going in and then the capital projects going out. So it definitely, when we have those reserve funds, they are coming from the levy. And that's the money that we've been trying tirelessly to make sure year by year we increase those so that money does go in. So I never say it comes from reserves, and it doesn't matter because I don't believe that. It's from taxes. It's definitely from taxes.
And very important to highlight, no question. It's always it's a difficult one to get your head around. But it does speak to the importance of continuing to contribute to your reserves from the levy. You have to do that. But it allows us to do the things that our constituents have also asked us for. We've all heard the priority of having good roads, but also, have you seen all of the work that's been going into our sidewalks? And we talked about, our connections and the missing links. And I remember when we first developed our sidewalk master plan, and we're actually filling those missing links now. We can do that because we contribute to those reserves. So we can't emphasize that enough, that it's the only way we get to do the things that are important to our community. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just a very quick question, and I think this might be to Director Bamion, but the batting cages being used by the Hornets, are they going to be booking them through you, and will it be generating any revenue to offset the costs of maintenance and running them?
Through you, Mayor. Number one, no, they will have a key, their own lock. It will be a locked unit. They will have access whenever the Hornets need it, which will probably be evenings and weekends when they're there using that space anyway. It can be an additional item for rental. That's not the direction we have from council at this point in time. It's part of their rental. They rent all of the diamonds and spaces for their league to play. So we don't have that in the fees and charges. We didn't propose that through that user group request. That could be something that we bring back as an additional rental item. But at this point in time, it would be a contract signed, honestly, through the parks operations team and the community services rental team to be able to add that and give them access to it with a lockbox and that kind of thing. There isn't any staff at the park to administer who would be using this if it was the public. And the Hornets are going to have to supply the actual batting machine. We're just supplying the cage, the outer cage to protect it and protect the town from liability, as well as the inner netting to catch the balls to protect the kids inside. So there needs to be the soft netting and the cage around it. So all of that needs to be locked for insurance purposes, for both the Hornets, other people at the park, and for the town of Huntsville. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, you more than answer the question. So.
Okay. That's me. I
Yeah.
usually do.
So I guess it's just going to be included in the rental cost of the ball diamonds.
At this
actually.
point, yes.
Okay.
Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, and I guess to that point, because I've been involved in that file a bit, I was even hoping that maybe the public could use it as well. But truthfully, even if it was open to the public, the vast majority of the usage will be Hornets players, you know, and just the time it would take for us to manage some rentals might not be worth it for, what are you going to charge, $20 or something like that? So, but if I may, I'd like to throw the numbers that I was given by Julie and Suzanne. I'd like to get them out in the public record of just to demonstrate how much we've done as a council in the last 4 years for capital. They're significant. If you look at, and again, we're following previous councils' lead. We're just being smart and not changing that. The increase to the capital levy during our term from 21 to 26, so just before us, it is now increased from $4.98 million into reserves to $8.62 million. That number is amazing. And to Councillor Stone's question of where they're coming from, well, if we weren't increasing it that much, it'd be really hard to replenish those reserves so that the stuff we can do, we can come out of reserves. That represents a 73% increase that this council has committed to the capital budget. Specifically, I've asked for it to be broken down just out to roads, bridges, and sidewalks. For just that portion of the capital reserve, it has been increased from 3.09 million to 5.76 million. So that's an 86% increase. And every time we hear from the public, the biggest thing we hear about is roads, sidewalks, and bridges. Well, mainly roads. So yes, we understand this increase. No increase is great. Everyone would like it to be status quo, but we have committed to an 86% increase in our capital levy for roads, bridges, and sidewalks. And I think that message needs to get out there.
Very important, and appreciate that. And it's funny, no question we hear about roads, but we also heard about sidewalks and walk pathways, all of those things where people would comment on the state of our sidewalks. So and maybe that's a pet peeve, but it's I'm really thrilled to see the work that's going on there. Yeah. I don't see any other comments or questions. No, that side. Oh, Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just a comment around the batting cages. I know that the president of the Hornets has sent us some communication and invited us to their awards banquet and that kind of thing. He expects, because of what's happened with the Blue Jays, that there's going to be a surge in registration. They currently have 300 players in their organization. Maybe we can just encourage them to have open houses so people can try out the batting cage and increase their membership in that avenue, and give everyone the opportunity. And then it is really for everyone.
That's a great suggestion. I love that. Yeah, good. All right. So this is where having the strong mayor power legislation is handy, because I was talking to our clerk and said, so do I walk through the full recommendation? No, you don't need to do that. It's your budget. Okay, so what I do need is the reference to the motion about reducing the 30-day amendment period. So if council chooses not to do that, I do have a motion that says, it has been moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Renwick. Be it resolved that the 30-day budget amendment period prescribed in Ontario Regulation 53022, Section 7.3 be shortened, and the final day for amendments be November 13th, 2025, which is today. So if council endorses this, you're ostensibly allowing me to sign off on the budget, and we're done. So are there any questions about this particular motion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries all the way around. Wow. So, with that, I have a motion moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that confirmation bylaw 2025-119 be received and passed this 13th day of November 2025. All those in favor? And that carries all the way around. Holy cow. Thank you, Council. This is amazing. Thank you, staff. I have a motion moved by Councillor Cluche, seconded by Councillor Stone. Be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 10:21 a.m. All those in favor? And that carries.